I guess.
First, and then the 25th goes into the 7 good kind.
Yeah, start from there.
Okay, 44.
Yeah, start from there. I mean, that's why, like I said, you got to read the whole chapter, or the 41st chapter on into like the 45th, 46th chapter to get the full understanding of it. All right.
15.
I'll go to 15, and then jump. I guess we can jump down to 25, and then jump down to where you was at. Go ahead.
All right. Genesis 41 and 15. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. The Most High shall give Pharaoh the answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood up upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat flesh and well favored, and they fled in the meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill favored, and lean flesh, such as I never saw in the land of Egypt for badness. I'm going to jump down now.
Yeah.
Okay, verse 25. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. The Most High has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What the Most High is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by the Most High, and the Most High will shortly bring it to pass.
Yeah. Now, when there is a drought in one land, and let's say another land is doing very good, they have stockpile of corn or wheat or whatever, that other land becomes a slave to the land that has all that plenty. Because if they say, well, we're not going to deal with them, well, guess what? You're just going to die, and that land of plenty is just going to take over your land. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to that land, you're going to have to give them whatever price they ask for, all right? And then you can live, or you can say, well, look, if you become my servant, then I'll let you eat. So that's what made Egypt great. All those surrounding nations gave up their gold, whatever substances they had, part of their land, part of their children to serve slaves, to serve as slaves in the Egyptians, and that's what made this place great. Go ahead.
Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, and the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is? And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of the Most High is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as the Most High hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen.
Why? Because he was one of the kings. At that time, this particular king of Pharaoh was over him. But eventually, Joseph became greater than all the Egyptians and his brother. Go ahead.
says, and Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bow the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt.
He made him who? He made Joseph ruler over the whole land of Egypt. Go ahead.
It says, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paaneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. And Joseph went out over all.
So he had children too. He became part of that royal line. Because Pharaoh had him marry, gave him to wife this woman that was an Egyptian woman that was in a royal family among the Egyptians. And what was the name that he gave him?
Zaphnath-Paaneah.
Right, now the scholars argue about what it actually means, but they all pretty much say the same thing, that it means that that revealer of secrets, revealer of mysteries. Alright? Go ahead.
It says, and Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field which was round about every city laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph
they had gathered so much corn they couldn't even count it. They didn't know how much corn they had. So that's why I said corn is the thing that made Egypt great. Because you can store corn for years. Go ahead.
And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for the Most High said, He had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house.
Right. So Manasseh and I believe it was Manasseh and Ephraim, or there was 2 different wives. We got to keep reading. But Manasseh mother was a so-called Egyptian woman. Go ahead.
And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for the Most High hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction.
Right, so both Ephraim and Manasseh mother was an Egyptian woman. All right, just like going back to Abraham, his first son was from an Egyptian woman. Go ahead.
It says, and the 7 years of plenteous that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph has said. And the dearth was in the land, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, and he said, what he saith to you, do.
Why? Because he was a ruler over the Egyptians. Wasn't he speaking to the Egyptians? Go ahead.
And his famine was over all the face, of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was sore in all lands.
So you had all those Egyptians from that area come to buy corn. You had other nations come from around that area come to buy corn. So that's, like I said, that's how they became great. Go ahead.
That was it on that right there.
Okay. But that's basically what we wanted, man. That's basically what we wanted.
I got some
to show you why Egypt became great. You go to the museum, you see all this, the greatness of the Egyptians. They got it because of that dream that Joseph broke down. Go ahead.
Psalms 105:16. Moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread. He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters, he was laid in iron.